There's one question that Taurus never asks out loud, not for lack of curiosity, for lack of words for her. The question is this: why is it that sometimes inside my own home I feel like I'm not alone, and at the same time I have no way to prove it to absolutely anyone? Most people would have dismissed that feeling as nervousness, as imagination. Taurus dismisses that too, but doesn't forget, because the Taurus body registers with a precision that the mind can't erase after the moment has passed. That memory remains. The different silence, the scent that had no origin, the weight lifted without any event to justify it, the touch that had no hand. This video won't convince you of anything you don't already know on some deep level. It will give you a name for what you've already felt, and show you why Taurus specifically is the sign that receives these signals most often, not despite being an earth sign. Because of it. Because angels don't communicate through abstract ether. They communicate through matter, through smell, through the weight of silence, through the body that suddenly breathes differently. And Taurus was created by Venus to feel all of this with a clarity that no other sign of the zodiac can replicate. The 5 signs that follow. You've probably experienced them all. You've just never been allowed to call them by their proper names. Because there's a sign that almost every Taurus has felt, a specific moment, usually indoors, when the environment changes for no apparent reason. No noise, no event. Nothing to justify what the body perceived. It's not dramatic. Most of the time, it's subtle enough to go unnoticed, but Taurus notices. You notice the silence is different. You notice the air has become denser or lighter in a matter of seconds. You perceive something that doesn't yet have a name, but that the body recognizes before any conscious thought. And that perception lasts for a few moments, leaves a strange memory, and then passes. And Taurus immediately thinks, it must have been tiredness. It must have been stress. It must have been anything but what it seemed to be. But there is a difference between ordinary silence and silence that has presence. Taurus knows this difference, always has. It is the silence that stops time, that leaves the body slightly alert without knowing why. And it is in this difference, in this space, that the body recognizes and the mind tries to erase, that the first sign resides. The home of a Taurus is not just a physical space. It never has been. It's an extension of themselves, a living energy field. Taurus imprints something of themselves on every room, and therefore when something external enters this field, the body registers it before any words can describe it. The question is what Taurus does with this imprint. What does any Taurus do with something that she feels it, but can't name it right away? It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose is not a generic spiritual guide. It's a tool built for those who, like Taurus, have an extraordinary sensory channel but have never received the map to understand what flows through it. It works precisely on that boundary between what the Taurus body perceives and what the mind doesn't yet have the capacity to process. Between receiving a sign and having the clarity to walk with it, without having to abandon who you are to do so. For Taurus, it's not a matter of becoming different. It's a matter of ceasing to deny what already is. You're at that point now, still processing, with that feeling that what's being said here isn't entirely new, that on some level you've known this before, but never had the words for it. And it's precisely in this state, with the recognition still active, the discomfort still present, that action makes sense. Not when the feeling passes, not after another afternoon without an answer. Now, while what was said still resonates within you. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. In the comments, I want to ask you a question. Is there a moment in your home, a different kind of silence, a smell that had no origin, a sensation that your body picked up and your mind tried to erase, that you've never been able to forget, but have also never told anyone about? Leave it in the comments. You'll see you're not alone in this. The second sign is easier to ignore at the time it happens, and at the same time harder to forget later. It's the smell. Not just any smell. A specific, unmistakable scent that appears in the environment without any visible source. Flowers in a room without flowers. The perfume of someone who is no longer in this life. A soft, sweet smoke where there is no lit candle, no incense, absolutely nothing that can explain it. And the smell doesn't last long enough for you to pinpoint the source. It's there, clearly there, and then it's simply gone. Venus governs not only the beauty of Taurus, it governs the senses. And within the senses, smell holds a special place that most people have never stopped to consider. It is the only sense that processes information directly without passing through the brain filters that other senses use. Smell arrives before reasoning. It arrives before doubt. It arrives before the explanation that the mind will construct afterward. And that is precisely why the divine uses this channel with Taurus. When a smell appears without a source, the brain begins to search for an explanation. A draft from a window, something forgotten in some corner, a memory triggered by something else. But Taurus knows, not rationally, but with that quiet certainty that the body holds before any word, that the smell has no explanation, that it came from somewhere else, that it didn't arrive by accident. The scent that comes from nowhere is, more often than not, a way of marking its presence. It's not a threat. It's not a disturbance, it's a presence. The kind of presence that Taurus, with its sensory antenna calibrated by Venus, is able to capture with a clarity that most people don't have the means to register. And there's a pattern to this sign that Taurus begins to recognize over time. The scent doesn't appear at just any moment. It appears during moments of silent tension, on nights when the mind won't stop racing, in hours when worry has already surpassed the limit of what can be carried with dignity. It's as if something responds to the weight, not with words, but with a sensory presence that the Taurus body can read before understanding. The question isn't whether the smell was real, it's what he was saying, because the third sign says the same thing. Only instead of using the sense of smell, it uses the whole body. Taurus carries a lot. That's nothing new. Taurus's emotional structure was built to absorb pressure, to absorb the weight of others, to absorb the uncertainty of the world without letting it show on the surface. And sometimes this weight accumulates silently, layer upon layer, to the point where the body no longer even realizes how much it is supporting. And so, without any external event to justify it, without transformative conversation, without solving any practical problem, the weight lifts. It doesn't go away slowly, like a gradual improvement observed over days. It rises, all at once. The body breathes differently, the shoulders slump, the air goes deeper into the lungs, and Taurus stands still for a few seconds without understanding what happened, because, in the eyes of the world, nothing happened. No problem was solved. No conversation took place. No good news arrived. It is this nothing that is everything, because when the weight lifts for no apparent reason, what's happening is that something has intervened. Not dramatically, not with a visible sign or language that the mind can immediately process, but the field around Taurus has shifted, and the body, that instrument of Venus, that ground antenna built to feel before thinking, felt the change before any other channel could register it. It's not psychological relief that happened by chance. It's contact. What you just recognized, that weight you lift without any external event, that shift in your body's energy field that you feel before any explanation arrives, is exactly the kind of experience that the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose explores in depth. Not as a phenomenon to be proven to someone, but as a capacity to be recognized and cultivated. Because Taurus doesn't need to learn to receive these signals, it already does. What it needs is to learn not to dismantle what the body knew before the mind interfered. This digital book was built precisely for that. For those who already have the channel open, but are still learning to trust it without demanding the approval of logic. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. The fourth sign doesn't arrive through smell. It doesn't arrive through silence. It doesn't arrive through the emotional realm. It arrives through touch. And this is the sign that is most disconcerting when it happens. Not because it's frightening, but because the Taurus body is so calibrated to feel the physical that when a touch arrives without a physical origin, the nervous system's response is immediate and undeniable. You can't pretend you didn't feel it. It's a gentle pressure on the shoulder where there's no hand, a localized and precise warmth at a specific point on the arm, neck, or nape, without any heat source to justify it. Sometimes it's the opposite, a shiver that runs down the spine, not from the cold of the environment, but from contact with something that has no visible form. The kind of sensation that the nervous system registers with total clarity, and that the mind then begins to dismantle, searching for the most acceptable, the most palatable explanation. Taurus has the nervous system most sensitive to tactile perception in the zodiac. This is part of Venus's nature. Taurus's tactile perception is not common. Taurus feels the texture of things in a way that goes beyond the physical. They sense the quality of a presence, the temperature of an environment, the difference between empty space and space inhabited by something the eyes cannot reach. And this is the system that the divine uses. The hands-free touch is not a malfunction of the nervous system. It is the nervous system functioning exactly as it was designed, picking up a presence that is there, at a frequency that most people don't have the apparatus to detect. Taurus does. And when that touch comes, it's almost always accompanied by something specific happening internally. It's not fear, it's recognition. The kind of recognition the body produces before any conscious thought, as if it knew from the beginning that it's not a threat, it's care, it's protection. It's a presence that came with an intention, that the Taurus body reads before the mind has time to question it. The question is, what happens next? What does Taurus do with this recognition? When a Taurus's body registers a touch that doesn't originate from a hand, the immediate impulse is to find an explanation that makes it acceptable to rationality. But the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose proposes the opposite movement. What if, instead of trying to translate the signal into the language of logic, Taurus learned to remain in recognition, without needing to justify it to anyone, without needing to transform the experience into something the world can validate? This digital book was made for the Taurus who has already felt the touch, the smell, the charged silence, and is ready to stop dismantling what their own body knows, just to make it palatable to a mind that hasn't yet learned to trust what it can't explain. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. The fifth sign is the most difficult to recognize as a sign, precisely because it seems too good to have a spiritual explanation. It seems like mere luck. It seems like perfect timing. It seems like a welcome coincidence that appeared without warning. It's the money that arrived when your account was overdrawn and no planning could explain where it came from. It's the call from a specific person exactly when you needed to hear that voice and had no way of knowing you needed it. It's the door that opened effortlessly, the contract, the opportunity, the reunion, at a moment when you had stopped actively pushing because you no longer had the energy for it. It's the solution that appeared for a problem you had mentally relegated to the shelf of the impossible. Taurus has a relationship with abundance that goes beyond what most people understand about this sign. It's not just that Taurus enjoys material comfort and financial stability. It's that Taurus was built by Venus, by Earth, by the entire internal architecture of the sign to receive, to be a receiver, to have the ability to attract to the field what the field needs, when it needs it, in ways that rational planning alone could never achieve. And when that capacity is aligned with the divine, the abundance that arrives doesn't follow the logic of linear effort. It appears from angles that prediction wouldn't have considered, in forms that strategy wouldn't have anticipated, and with a precision of context, the exact moment, the exact form, the exact intensity, that chance cannot replicate with that consistency. The sign that this is happening isn't just the result itself, it's the feeling that comes with it. That I knew it would work out, that Taurus sometimes feels even before they can justify where that certainty came from. That quiet tranquility that precedes the event, as if the body had already received the information before it manifested on the visible plane, because he received it. Angels don't arrive with fanfare, they don't arrive with signs that the whole world can see. They arrive through the language that Taurus was built to read, a familiar scent that appears out of nowhere, a silence that has weight, a touch without hands, a weight that lifts, and an abundance that appears at the exact moment, not because the universe is generic with everyone the same, but because Taurus has a channel that few recognize, and even fewer know how to honor. The abundance that arrives without linear logic, the unexpected financial relief, the phone call at the exact moment, the door that opens without force, is not an accident for Taurus. It never has been. And the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose delves into precisely this understanding, how Taurus can live in conscious alignment with this channel of reception, instead of receiving abundance by accident and attributing it to luck or isolated human effort. The digital book offers Taurus the framework to move out of reactive mode, of receiving, questioning, and discarding, and into a mode of active presence with the divine that is already operating in their life, with or without their conscious permission. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. So what changes now? It's not Taurus's life that changes immediately. What changes is the attention, the permission, something more difficult to build than any material stability, but also more lasting than any achievement that human hands alone can sustain. Taurus has spent a lot of time building solidity in the external world and is genuinely extraordinary at it. It builds homes, it builds stability, it builds routines that work and bonds that withstand the test of time. But while building all this on the outside, it sometimes forgets to pay attention to what is being built around it and through it by forces that don't need bricks, planning, or mental approval to work. The 5 signs revealed here are not the spiritual property of any doctrine. They don't belong to a specific belief that Taurus needs to adopt to receive them. They are experiences, sensory, real, verifiable. For any Taurus who has taken enough time to honor what their body has always known, without immediately trying to erase it with a more comfortable explanation. The silence that has a presence, the scent without origin, the weight that lifts, the touch without hands, the abundance that appears at the exact moment. These signs were there. They are there. They will continue to be there because the Taurus channel doesn't close. It's not something you choose to turn on or off. It's part of what Taurus is, the way Venus designed this sign to exist in the world, deeply within the physical, and precisely because of that, deeply connected to what lies beyond it. Taurus doesn't need to become more spiritual to receive the divine. It is already spiritual in the only way that truly matters, which is through the body, the home, the senses, the matter it inhabits with such presence. What changes is not who Taurus is. What changes is the permission to trust in that. It's about not dismantling what the body feels to make it acceptable to someone else, to the mind, to the world, to any belief system that needs proof before granting value. It's about recognizing that being earthy doesn't mean being closed off to the invisible. It means being the most accurate and faithful receiver that exists for what the invisible wants to say. Angels don't choose the enlightened. They don't choose the perfect. They don't choose those who have already solved everything. They choose the present. And Taurus, with its attentive body, its living home, its senses calibrated by the frequency of Venus, its silent capacity to inhabit the world with a depth that few understand from the outside, is, perhaps, the most complete form of presence that the entire zodiac knows. You didn't need to learn how to receive, you just needed to stop convincing yourself that what you were receiving wasn't real. It was always real.